Don't get into debt. Don't do debt. Debt is not good for you. It is not a good thing. When you get into debt, you become a slave to the lender. And that is how it functions. And God's intent for us is not slavery. His intent for us is freedom. God came to set us free for freedom's sake. This is what Galatians chapter 5 verse 1 says. So we are not supposed to live in bondage on this planet. And we get ourselves in bondage when we walk into disobedience, or in this case, when we walk into debt. So simply put, the Bible says don't do debt. Okay? Then the Bible says this. If you're going to do debt, if you end up in debt, then what does the Bible say you should do with your debt? Pay it back. That's exactly right. I mean, it's so simple. Don't do debt. If you do debt and you've skipped recommendation number 1, then command number 2 is pay it back. And that's really, in a nutshell, how simple the Bible is. So there you have it. Don't do debt. If you haven't, pay it back. Well, that seems to be where we need to stop. So why are we here tonight? Folks, why are we sitting here bringing in all these experts in the realities of the legal rights that you have and the stuff you can do to navigate and negotiate and manage and escape your debt? Why even have this discussion if we already know the Bible is very simple? Don't do it, and if you do it, pay it back. Well, the reason that we're here tonight having this discussion is because, like many people that sort of grew up in the Christian church, I think my assumptions about debt repayment were incorrect because they were limited. They were limited to a simple idea. If you have debt, if you have borrowed, then the Bible requires you to pay the debt back dollar for dollar no matter what. No matter what the circumstances, you pay it back. I saw debt like I see a covenant, right? I mean, you've drawn up a covenant, and a covenant, there's just no break in that. But the fact of the matter is that is not the way that the Scriptures handles debt at all. And it's not the way that it handles debt repayment. God's intent for you and I, His command to us, is that we pay back debt. God never wants you and I, as Christ followers, to just simply run away from our debt. To ignore the phone calls, and ignore the creditors, and ignore the people, and just hope it goes away, like many of us tend to do, right? That is not biblical. God does not want that. God has a completely different plan. So plan number 1 is, if you're able to pay back your debt, then pay it back. Okay? If you got into debt under a certain set of circumstances, and the circumstances haven't changed, and you're able to pay it back, then pay it back. If after you've gotten to debt, the circumstances change, and you are unable to pay the debt back, there are some biblical options laid on the table. Okay? Biblical option number 1. If you can't pay back your debt, you have the option to go and ask for forgiveness. Isn't that amazing? God tells you, if you can't pay back your debt, you should go and ask the debtor, the person that's giving you the money, the lender, will you please forgive me? That